All right, we are live for the Monday edition of the Morning Check-In. And as always, excited to connect. Looking forward to finding out what you guys are keeping your eyes on. And today is Monday, the 8th day of the month of April. And yeah, today is going to be full of festivities, activities, concerns, news, you name it, and the potential for some type of unforeseen event. So we're going to talk about that and a lot more. As always, want to welcome everybody to the community. Any first-time viewers, let me know where you're watching from via the chat, and also would love to find out some alternative stories that I may not be able to touch on today, just because the primary focus for me right now happens to be what's happening in the monetary system when it comes to the what I always call the Achilles heel to the monetary order, and happens to be silver. And so, as of right now, we have the silver surge that definitely is worth catching everyone's attention because it is the last and the most um, noteworthy medium of exchange because it is the people's money. And I'm referring to silver. And also, I got some outlandish, I want to say, price predictions from people who was some TA type stuff, but you're not quite sure what type of how to take it, how serious to take it. But nevertheless, these figures are astronomical. So anyway, man, looking forward to having a good morning live stream. I hope everyone had a great weekend and excited about, depending where you're at in the country, being able to see the solar eclipse and all the emergency warnings that were given prior to. We got the CERN kicking off the day with all the attempts to accomplish only God knows what. We got NASA shooting rockets in the sky. We got the WHO talking about another one of them things that go into arms. Anyway, so all right, man, it's gonna be good. So I don't want to waste any time. We got Renee checking in. We got Pablo checking in. Let me know if everything is coming through loud and clear on the audio side, and we'll make this worth your while as always. So typical format: start off with the good news, which is the most important subject matter of the day. Hopefully, you get yourself spiritually charged up for the day ahead. Get into some market, some news activities, covered everything from Wall Street to Main Street. Share my 2 cents on everything in between. So, all right, man, let's jump into it. Before I move forward, let me make sure I continue to give people a chance to be a blessing to the channel. So if you haven't, hit that subscribe button as well as notification so you'll be plugged in when we do go live. And also make sure you guys take a moment to join us over on Telegram. So here we have the socials here where you can go connect with the community throughout the day, share thoughts, ideas, suggestions, also video from your other favorite content creators. You know, the more variety, the better, the more we can all learn in real time. So join the Telegram group. Social media tab is down below so you guys can plug in with us there. All right, let me see here. Check in, make sure everything is going smoothly. All right, we got a good amount of people plugging in. All right, let's get into that good news, man. First and foremost. So this is from the Daily Devotional today, April 8th. It says, "Out of the pig pen." And as always, I read these short daily devotionals, basically highlighting a piece of scripture and then adding some commentary on top of it. Something just to get you thinking throughout the day and hopefully steer your faith in a direction where it gives the Lord a good chance to work in your life the way that He is mine and hopefully is yours. So it says here, this is from Luke 15:24. It says, "This son of mine was lost and is found." So they began to celebrate. We know this is about the prodigal son, but it says here, imagine the prodigal son looking at his pigs he was feeding as he dropped pods into their sty. His stomach growled, and he realized they were eating better than he was. He was actually envying the hogs. Life couldn't get much worse. The only alternative this young man could imagine was to return to his father in humiliation. You can imagine his joy as he returned home and found his father had not only forgiven him, but greeted him with open arms. It says, likewise, no matter how far you are from God, his arms are open to you as well. You have not slipped too far away from him that you can't slip too far from him. You can't. 2 Timothy 2:13, you can't, basically. He says his grace is always available to lift you up out of the pit of sin and defeat back to victorious living. So do not envy the pigs or give in to despair. Run back to the Father. He desires to restore you by his grace and fill you with all of his goodness. And the closing thought is, Lord, show me the ways I've strayed and bring me back to the safety of your love. Thank you for always accepting me. Amen. All right. the good morning word for the day. You can never stray too far away from your Heavenly Father. You're always welcome to come back home. So hopefully that is a blessing to somebody this morning. Never too far away. All right, let's get into it, man. So, as always, hit that thumbs up button, show your support for the channel. I want to also big up my people. Got to give some shout outs to my partners in crime. But before I do that, I want to make sure I continue to remind people that the importance of filling in that knowledge gap. And what do I mean by that? That is let me get this on the screen here, filling in that knowledge gap. So, underneath this video here, I put up, what I consider to be 3 steps towards monetary savviness. And the first one starts with testing your monetary IQ. And so here's a 10-question quiz, sweet and simple. The overall average for hundreds of people have taken this throughout the years is about 60%, meaning that there's a little bit of an information gap there that was not provided for us in school. So here we have a way for you to test that. And then from there, you're able to go get information to fill in that gap and then also plug in with more information. So 3 steps beneath this video here. Feel free to check it out and get plugged in. And if you find value here, share this with family and friends so they can also test their dollar IQ and see where they stand and hopefully follow those steps and get plugged in, get information while you still can. All right. And then lastly here, I want to make sure I continue to remind people the opportunity. So I'm curious to get your guys' thoughts as well on the interview I had with Paul Stone, the CEO of Colonials Metals Group. Great conversation. And he's definitely going to join me again because he has a wealth of knowledge. But the whole point of the case is colonialsmetalsgroup.com/RTD. Links in the description. And basically what this forum does, give you a chance to plug in your information, reach out to the team there, and actually talk to the experts that can help you take possession of what you believe is yours, which is everything you worked hard for, put it into gold and silver, and do it in a self-directed IRA format. And so if you're interested in finding out more about that, I encourage you to click the link below or call the number 1-888-521-2448 and speak with one of their experts there. And you can find out more information here, some testimonials and things of that nature about Colonials Metals Group. And basically, if it's something of interest to you, I advise you take a couple minutes, check them out, speak to an expert, and see how they could be a blessing to you as well. So information is in the description if you guys are interested. All right. Let's keep it moving, man. All right. I want to jump right into it. So some things that caught my attention today, and it happens to be, as I mentioned, the price of silver in USD terms, and how clearly whatever Yellen went over there to China to try to accomplish didn't work because the momentum continues on. And as silver, which I believe is the most underpriced, undervalued monetary medium, because it is a people's money. It is and has been used as a medium of exchange for hundreds of years. And with a little TA I'm going to show you here, gives you a price target of what it should be if valued in today's dollars from a 500-year perspective. It just gets me thinking about how we haven't even seen the best or the worst of what could come about from the current price action with silver, not to mention gold. Like, gold is going to do what it's going to do. That is the primary medium of exchange amongst the banking sector, and it's the international medium of exchange for international trade. Always has been, and looks like it's being returned to that status. But I'm talking about the average Joe, you and I, people who are able to actually go out in this current moment and actually grab an ounce or more of what I consider to be real, true wealth preservation in our hands. Like, never taking this for granted, man. To be opportunity to be able to still go out and buy something physical in this current environment, on top of all the other issues we're facing, it's still something to pay attention to. So let's dive into it. I wanted to actually start off by talking about that amongst many other things. Let me bring this on screen here. I was trying to, let me see if I can get it up here, but it looks like it's not cooperating. But I'll just jump into the next primary subject matter. So as of right now, let's look at what we got price action wise. All right, what we got here. So just looking at the metals at this current moment, I'm gonna get into some other things because I think everything is being led by what's happening in China. But here we have, as markets open here in the U.S., we got gold at 23.19, already in that all-time high territory, aka Federal Reserve note, aka the dollar, all-time low territory. Then we have silver trailing right behind, 27.26 and climbing. And so as of right now, the USD price from the Western Hemisphere is quite different from what's happening in the Eastern Hemisphere. We're going to talk about that. So it looks like when the markets opened, it was at 27.80. And as always, they managed to, let me get this out the way. It opened at a high over here from the Crimex at about 27.80-ish. And all of a sudden, 50 cent slammed down, but it's starting to recover a little bit. Shouldn't be too surprising. Then what else we got here? Other metals that trail happens to be, let me go back here. Give me a second here. Oh, well, maybe not. Maybe I won't be able to. Okay, so keeping it moving. All right, let's get into just some other things happening right now in the crypto bubble space. NEO look like it's popping a little bit. And so we have Bitcoin at 72. It got up at 72 about an hour ago. As of right now, it's 71 and climbing. It's also going to continue to go up as we get into more turbulent territory. Ethereum 36,000 or 3,600. I'm sorry. Now it's down to 36.19. Shouldn't be too surprising there. It is always trailing, and everything else in between for those who love to speculate. Opportunity for you there. Let's take a look at the legacy system as of right now. So we got inflation numbers coming out this week. You can bet that it's going to be higher. Therefore, the chance of the Fed cutting rates in June like they're so-called supposed to, not too likely. But I mentioned that several weeks ago how don't expect things to play out in normal fashion. So here we got a mixture here. Microsoft, Apple's down, Nvidia's down. We got Google doing a little bit of something here. Tesla's doing its thug thizzle, as you guys see over here. I'll get myself out the way here. So looks at the banks. Banks look to be relatively in the positive at this current moment. Credit services pretty much in the positive. So nothing worthwhile overall. But what I want to bring to your attention is this visual 8 right here, the Silver Warrior. And so this came out initially on the U.S. debt clock. And so when you go to U.S. debt clock, actually, let me go back here. You go to the U.S. debt clock, and it always does a good job of giving real things and real figures in real time. But then you go to a secret window, it brings you to this visual 8 here, the Silver Warrior. And what caught my attention, I've seen a couple of people share their thoughts on this, but just the overall depiction and the things that can be extracted from this particular image here, to me, it says a lot. And what is most newsworthy is the fact here it has a warrior, a silver warrior at that, slashing through the central bank, aka the Federal Reserve Ponzi pyramid. And inside of that pyramid happens to be a lot of green things, aka fiat currency notes. And so basically symbolizing that as prices of silver surge is literally breaking the back or breaking the monetary controlling forces that be when it comes to silver. And so we'll see how this plays out. But, this silver slash here doesn't just represent the Federal Reserve. It represents to me the entire central banking Ponzi scheme model that has been set up, because all along the goal was to remove metals from the people's possession and their psyche. And with this current price activity, is no way that this price action will not come back into the limelight, i.e., people steering people towards the chance of getting their weight up with physical silver. So something worth keeping an eye on in days ahead. Now let's get into some activity that's coming from out east. And so I tend to grab this information from a Twitter account, and I'm probably going to butcher the name, but I just say by Xinjiang. If I'm saying it incorrectly, forgive me. But I think he does a good job of keeping track of real activity. And this literally came out early this morning, late last night when the Asian markets were open. But here we have silver on the Shanghai Exchange and Shanghai Futures Exchange hit a new high since October 8th, 2012. It says gold kept an all-time high, but silver on the SEF closed at a limit up April 8th, the market data on the silver exchange, silver future exchange. So just an idea as to what he's referring to here. Here you can see the dollar USD price of, we got silver, gold. And so as of right now, it closed at $30.64, and gold is $2,384 an ounce in gold. So literally the drive upward is coming from the Shanghai exchanges, and it forces the Western forces to have to now figure out how to suppress as best as they can, knowing that the decoupling has already taken place between the paper and the physical realm. And so 3064 is that number that a lot of people mention is the breaking point to where when it gets to the 30 figure, I guess in USD terms, officially here with our Western exchanges, then that it right there could be the moment where, something officially has to give. So we'll see how that plays out. And then here is another interesting chart as well. And so it says Shanghai Future Exchange silver have broken through the new high of the COVID-19 2020 mark and set a new high since October 2012. So referring to that same price figure we just mentioned. So going back here to October, when it surged and immediately Crimex brought it down, it has now reached that figure as well based upon activity happening out there. And now it's just a matter of like, where does it go from here? And then this leads me to some price predictions that another person on Twitter mentioned that I thought I would bring to your attention, just because it just gets you thinking about, if you round up some numbers, how high could it really go? And so let me share with you some things here. So here we have a TA and cycles guy named Grady, if I'm saying that correctly. And just the figure he puts out here and how he came up with this is just something that, it's beyond me, but I thought I would bring it to your attention just because it gives you something just to chew on and see how early we are and how this price activity, price in USD terms, could be beneficial for those who are willing and wanting to position themselves ahead of basically the destruction of the fiat version of the USD. But right here, it says silver all-time high is not $50. It is $806 in 1998 US value. It says silver has been in decline for 500 years when it bottomed around the millennium. It says, could 800 happen briefly again when silver goes ballistic at the end of the commodities bull cycle? He says, absolutely. And so I was thumbing through this chart here that he shared. And if you guys want to look at it more in depth, I encourage you to go to Twitter and, follow his account here. But as you can see above my head here, barely at the very bottom of this is the time frame that goes from like 1384 all the way to 2024. So this is that 800 or 500 year or so time frame. If I'm mistaken, is it 1400? Yeah. And so right here at the very peak, according to the way he drew this chart up, it's the year 1477, where he's saying that if you use $1998 for whatever reason, you would get a price of about $806. And so he's saying that during this 1477, the year 1477, is when silver peaked in reference to, I guess, its role as the preferred and only medium of exchange. It was literally money then. All the coinage that was in circulation utilized in the empires around the world was in silver. And so he's saying that after that moment, here we have the discovery of the new land. So we got like 1500s, 1600s here, which these new discoveries in Latin America and things of that nature expanded the silver supply, i.e., driving the price down over time to where here we are today, where the valuations have fluctuated once silver was removed from being a money or monetary source and transferred into a commodity structure, where now we got the ratio 85 to 1, where back in the day from 1400s all the way up until 1800s ish, it was out of the ground, or the ratio was of gold to silver was like 15 to 1, 14 to 1. And so here we're just witnessing his version of TA saying that if we were to go back into 1988's dollars, we would see $806, I guess, for starter's sake. But then again, if you factor in the total amount of USD in circulation, which we have no clue, 806 could still be a very small number. So interesting perspective there on this TA here. And then what was interesting also, somebody commented with was here. This is John Williams from Shadow Stats. This is his prediction on what an ounce of silver could be based upon more recent figures from Shadow Stats. And so as you can see here, it's $1,349 for an ounce of silver, according to John Williams over at Shadow Stats. So just giving you some ballpark figures of what ounce of silver could be priced in USD terms for whatever that's worth, because it's my personal opinion that if we reach figures like that, then that means the gold to silver ratio could easily be somewhere closer to a single digit figure, like a 9 to 1 or something like that. And that basically would mean that gold would be 10 times that figure of what we see on silver. But it's my suspicion that if we were to see figures that outlandish, then I don't think USD would still be the international standard of measurement, just because majority of people here in the US don't have silver or gold. So literally we would be in an environment that would be unrecognizable. And the price of gold, whatever that benchmark or standard that would be set internationally speaking amongst all the other nations, would definitely be something that the US would not be able to respond to favorably, because I don't think we're holding on to anywhere near enough gold or silver to have some type of equilibrium to where we will still function on the international scene at the same level we do now, because the reserve status would ultimately be gone at that point. So just some thoughts there worth sharing with you guys. All right, so I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts. What are some outlandish dollar figures that you would want to put out there in the chat? And so I see Shannon Wright says 1-to-1 gold to silver ratio would be very different. And so the reason I would say that could be a case is because of the 100-year of price manipulation and suppression of true value between gold and silver ratio wise. And even to this day, if it's come out of the ground 7-to-1, like silver has been so suppressed in reference to its true value, because it is the Achilles heel of the monetary system. Is that, I've seen people say that, the value of an ounce of silver will surpass gold, not necessarily because of the monetary role that it has, but the utility of it for medicine, technology. It has way more utilities than gold. And once it's utilized, there's no recycling it, because it's literally used up completely. Whereas in gold is something that is rarely used, and it tends to sit in a vault more so than actually being utilized. So it makes it that much more valuable than gold. So could we see that type of environment? Who knows? And I'd imagine that's why the advent of crypto to be brought in during this transition is so important for the powers that be, to entice people and excite people with digits rather than allowing them to truly understand the role of money in this form of silver. And speaking of which, shout out to my man Dave Morgan, who I've partnered with several times. He's actually sent me a copy of his book, The Silver Manifesto. And so for people who want to have a thorough education on silver and its role in the monetary system, this is definitely a wealth of knowledge here. So I've interviewed him several times on his book. So we've talked before, but he reached out to me and said he might want a copy. So Silver Manifesto, go check it out if you want a thorough education on silver and how important it is. So, all right. There's just a little something there. So let me check in real quick. I think silver can flip gold. Crypto King, I don't doubt it. Silver light year. What else we got here? $500 silver equals 7-to-1 gold in the Quran. Okay, LBP. What else we got here? I'll take $250 an ounce. So Rolf says that's $25,000 gold. Nick says my guess would be $10 to $15 per hour for 8 hours for 1/10 of an ounce. So $800 to $1,200 per ounce if it wasn't manipulated. Interesting. And then so even what's his name? Chris Duane. I remember his series of basically, if you to calculate what is it, an hour's worth of work, and you come up with over time what was the average worth, or not worth of, what was the average hour worth of time a person would spend if you calculate it in silver's term. And he came up with that 1/10 of an ounce. 1/10 of an ounce was an hour's worth of labor. So let me see here. I'm gonna find that interview that I did with him. Let me see if I can find it real quick. A little side note: I always love referencing great discussions I've had with monetary enthusiasts such as myself. So if you type in Chris Dwayne rethinking the dollar, so this is I first interviewed him 8 years ago. We had a great talk, and then I again interviewed him on a live stream. Looks like 4 years ago. So we've had some good back and forth. But Chris Dwayne and Silver Shield Products is one of a kind. So shout out to Chris Dwayne for doing a good job educating people there. All right, so let's get into some other stories here. So now we got some outlandish, bullish dollar terms or USD price valuations for silver. We got that out the way. Let's get into some more practical things happening on the monetary front as well. So here's another interesting narrative here coming out of the Eastern Hemisphere. So this is from Eric Balchunas. And so this happens to be with a gold ETF that was rolled out in China, and it was immediately halted due to the amount of inflows that was beyond what they expected. So just this type of activity lets me know that there's a certain viewpoint from the Western Hemisphere, or the Eastern Hemisphere rather, the Asian market, on the need to get physical and get into and get exposure to gold and silver in particular, that we're not hearing over this on this side of the world. Like, they don't have the same opportunity to get into the digital products the way we're being suckered into over here. So they're literally trying to get out of a collapsing system from their side of the world and get into something physical. Even though this is a gold stock ETF, it's still a derivative of physical gold. And so it says more wild stuff in China as local investors pile into a gold stock ETF, pushing its premium to 30% and forcing it to halt trading. It says investors there are so desperate to buy things that are not linked to their own economy, stock market, which has been in the gutter. So here you have just a visual aid showing how the fund percent premium for 4330 is 30%, literally. Like, so just, when it opened up, it was relatively calm, and then it wasn't. So just a little something of what's happening beyond our borders here. So check it out. All right. Here is something, a little update as to the latest from Janet Yellen's visit over to China, and how we talked about this on Friday, how it's my suspicion that she's literally going over there last minute effort to try to beg and plead our Chinese creditors to continue supporting our debt binge as best as they can. And so it looks like it may not have worked, because here we got gold and silver continue to do its thug thizzle. And so now we'll wait and see how the U.S. debt issuance and the lack of interest from other foreign buyers continues to trend. But then again, right now we got current bond yields starting to get a little bit of a spike. Lets me know that there is some buyers out there, but exactly who are those buyers? It wouldn't surprise me if it happens to be some methods set up by the West themselves to make it look like there's interest in still supporting the U.S. debt Ponzi scheme. But it says here, so literally after 30 years of gutting the working class, i.e. the manufacturing sector here in our country, in exchange for cheap goods created in Asia, aka China, it looks like for some reason she's backpedaling, basically saying that those cheap goods are now hurting the rest of the world. So just things to read into. But it says here, U.S. will not accept Chinese imports, decimating new industries, says Janet Yellen. So this came from a little bit of a speech she gave. So reading into it, says U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet warned China today that Washington will not accept new industries being decimated. So I'm assuming those new industries happens to be in the green sector, whether it be solar panels, lithium batteries, even she named that. All the things that would naturally be cheaper to produce over there may not necessarily be beneficial for the U.S. And so, the U.S. has exported debt for the longest, allowing us to live high on the heels for quite some time now. And so now, if the Chinese are no longer supporting our debt binge by buying U.S. treasuries, they're going around that by introducing alternative payments and drawing interest in the yuan as it is being internationalized, i.e., through different trade vehicles. So, China has developed several swap lines utilizing the renminbi for, in various countries that are short on dollars. So if you lack dollars, they are extending some loans and forgiving loans in the renminbi, which makes business more beneficial for China and less beneficial for the U.S. That means less people need to hold our liabilities. And so I guess the approach she's looking to take is trying to play hardball by using this, trade situation here as a excuse to try to put pressure on China to continue to accept and to fund our debt binge. So we'll see how this plays out. But once again, I don't think it's going to accomplish much just because the cat's out the bag. Meadows is being brought back into the limelight. Therefore, what need really is there to continue to fund the U.S. debt and deficit spending, especially heading into this restructuring period where, there's no real need in utilizing the Federal Reserve the way that the world has used it because of the weaponization of our dollar. So we'll see how things play out, but I don't expect nothing worthwhile coming from this figure here, as well as any entity in the U.S. So ultimately what that's saying is focus on gold and silver price movements, not necessarily anything else. So, all right, what else we got here? Some couple events caught my attention in the news. So for those who may not be familiar, it looks like Elon over the last 24, 48 hours, especially the weekend, is getting a little bit of pushback from the Brazilian judge. So it looks like Elon told the Supreme Court in Brazil that he will not cut access to X.com to the Brazilian population, regardless of what court judgment comes out of Brazil. And so Brazil is going through a complete tyrannical shift with their treatment of information that's available to their citizens. And so basically X is keeping their operations open and closing their offices there. And so Elon Musk is saying it's more important for the Brazilians to have freedom, i.e. through information, than continue to play into government's direct attempt to control, as it says here, misinformation or disinformation. So looks like Elon's going to battle with Brazil. We'll see if there's pushback from other nations that forces X to have to comply with the courts in Brazil. But ultimately speaking, the president there, Lula, and the Supreme Court, Alexandre Moraes, who's putting out this probe on Elon Musk, you can clearly see that there's some criminality happening between those two men there. So Elon is playing that patriot in a white coat, trying to save the world through allowing free information. Sounds good, seems good on the surface, but once again, I don't really have much trust or confidence in Elon because he is a part of the operations. All of his billions come from him taking advantage of government contracts and things like that. So not sure how long he's going to play this, free speech, save the world type of, facade, but it's fun to watch in the meantime. So more power to him. All right, what else we got here? I was thinking about this. So, with the price of crude oil continuing to trend upward, the U.S. deciding not to refill the strategic petroleum reserves means that this summer could be very pricey at the pumps beyond what we're wanting to pay or used to paying. And a lot of it's intentional. But then again, with OPEC and OPEC Plus basically curtailing the amount of production they release to the world or bring out the ground daily, it's going to be a very expensive summer, people. And so this right here from this CFA here says, good morning, everyone. Oil prices are rallying up 21% year to date. It says analysts predict record high demand for oil in May. Record high heading into summer. It says supply is tight given OPEC cuts, Mexican production halts, and sanctions abroad. This crunch is fueling an oil rally ahead of the U.S. summer driving season. Oil could hit $100 for the first time in 2 years. This adds to Biden's inflation worries. CPI and PPI numbers out Wednesday. Buckle up. So ultimately, with the upward trajectory of a barrel of oil, the Federal Reserve, like a lot of people saying the Federal Reserve is going to have to cut by June. Why? Like nothing warrants the Fed really needing a cut other than potential Fed speak from Jerome Powell directly and market expectations that the Fed has to begin to pivot at some point. But the tightening is not really fully worked its way through the economy for the simple fact that there's not enough pain right now. And so I think that they can literally go longer without needing to pivot, strangle holding the economy and the debt sector even more. So yeah, like, they're literally trying to bring all the different aspects of the financial sector to a halt heading into this summer for whatever reason. And that's why I think that the likelihood of there being some type of event that distracts and diverts attention from this short-term pain is underway. And so how all the things happening today with the eclipse that's might be utilized as an event, and CERN and NASA, and some type of civil unrest, and then also the idea of there being some type of societal breakdown is really likely when you have residents here in the state of Michigan talking about death to America. Like, that can definitely incite a lot of unrest on the home front. So anyway, I'm a little bit of everywhere, but I'm just basically getting to the point that we haven't seen anything yet in comparison to what they probably have in store for humanity. So buckle your seatbelts, take advantage of opportunities when you see them, be grateful for what you do have, and just continue to literally try to navigate these waters accordingly, for yourself individually as well as your family. So all right, here, a couple more things here. This is what I was referring to here. So literally this morning, death to America was trending. And this has to do with here in the city of Dearborn, metropolitan area right outside the city of Detroit. America is being conquered without a single shot being fired. This is from Graham Allen, whoever this individual is. This is, looks like a faith in God above everything else, host of Dear America only on Rumble, so has a fairly large following. So this is his commentary, but it says Arab activists are chanting death to America in Dearborn, Michigan. If you do not like America, you are free to leave. So here we got literally people saying death to Israel, death to America, death to this. I'm thinking like these people here, who have a foundation from the Middle East, they're taking advantage of the freedom and liberties we have been afforded here because of our Constitution and our political structure, but yet they find an issue with how things are operating within our government, saying death to America. So my thought is like, if it's so unbearable, then feel free to leave and go back to where, I'm sure you have a lot more freedom there in the Middle East, but this is just more confusion on top of what we're already witnessing here, into how the perks of having freedom of speech can also backfire when you have what literally is a radical ideology and philosophy backing this type of speech here, because none of this is done in love. This is the epitome of what I consider, hate speech, if that is something that we want to utilize. But then again, it's not hate speech when it's coming from that particular sect there. But if it's done against the woke agenda, such as calling out foolishness like the LGBTQ and anything transgender, anything in that ballpark, coming from a conservative standpoint, is considered hate speech. But when it's coming from that ideology there, well, that's just, freedom of expression. And they won't dare touch that with a 10-foot pole, because, bad things tend to happen when you call stuff like that out to the light. So anyway, just a little bit something was happening. Okay, what else we got here? Last thing here. Never let a crisis go to waste. Here we have Tedros and the World Health Organization basically just preparing everybody for what could be on the table. It says, who recommends farmers get vaccinated for the bird flu? And then this is from Mario Newfall. He says, it says, I don't think farmers are going to comply with the World Health Organization. Just call me crazy. So here we have another agenda being pushed, and this has everything to do with the desire for those small global entities, the WHO, the UN, World Economic Forum, those three beasts, three-headed monsters there, are literally trying to unite government power into one single entity, to take over humanity the way that the Bible prophesies that there will be a centralization of control, and then ultimately handing over to a single person. We know how this is playing out, but the road to that direction is how these type of things are what brings about that in the future, short term or far, or whatever, who knows. But anyway, so expect more talks of potential lockdown, shutdowns, and any type of scare tactics to keep people in line. So yeah, just something worth bringing to your attention. And what else? That's all I have. I got a couple more articles, but I won't bore you with the rest of them. But those are just some things that caught my attention this morning, man. Yeah, price predictions are going to be out there. Keep an eye on that. And on top of all types of other subjects. So out of curiosity, how many people along the pathway of the eclipse will be gathering in large crowds where the potential of some type of, event always is possible. So stay clear of events like that. Stay clear of any gatherings of that magnitude just for safety's sake. So, all right. So they are Tony L says all those saying death to America are Muslims. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at in a roundabout way. Like, but then again, like that's one of many religions that have conflicting viewpoints on how their conduct will be performed in the days of hell. Like, like there's not much love and forgiveness and tolerance in certain religions, and so that's to me what separates Christianity as a religion, the way it's been sold. But then again, like when you go beyond that, like it's centered on the concept of love and forgiveness and turning the other cheek, those type of principles there, which are far from normal and natural amongst all the other ideologies out there. So just some key differences there that I think make a world of difference, showing you which ones is more in line with the type of peace that this world is looking for. This won't come currently in this life, unfortunately. But what else you got here? So let's throw a little Q&A. What you guys have on your mind? Feel free to put out some thoughts real quick. Highlight at rtd.tv. Let me know what you're keeping your eyes on. What else out there that I didn't bring to the forefront? RFK. It's what interests me is that independent ticket and the fact that he's still getting attention as a viable candidate, as if like he actually has a chance at, getting into the White House. I think that's interesting. The fact that people are still entertaining that. What else we got for too long? Let me see here. All those saying death to America. Okay, I saw that. Those people won't live in America if die. Back to Gaza. UK consumer out whipping up that Gucci handbags. Yeah. All right. Well, I don't see any thoughts out there. I guess we've covered it all, my good people. As always, for those who are plugged in, man, hope you guys got a little something out of this morning check-in. And most importantly, go back to those who coming in late, check out the good news. That's how you start your day off. Something positive, encouraging, and uplifting. And then you get into the practical things that's taking place, things that you really can't control, but just worth knowing just because. What else? All right, my good people. Be blessed, be safe. Eugene says, read Matthew 10:34-39. Read it. So for my people who are out there, go dive into that good word real quick. I won't read it just because we already got a good little amount of word in today, but go check it out for those who want to get more spiritual edification there. All right, my good people, be blessed, be safe, have a great day, be productive, stay safe. And of course, let's know for my believers out there in particular, like this is a great time as always to, pray, utilize the power of prayer for God's intervention in man affairs. That's what we need most. And prayer is a powerful tool to utilize personally and corporately for the body of Christ. Remember, like the reason the world is still being held together, even though it looks chaotic as ever, is because of the body of Christ that's still present here. And because of our presence here is what keeps things glued together. But once the body is removed, i.e. the church is called up out of here, that's when things literally goes haywires. And then we witness some things that, mankind would not want to experience as we, wrap this thing up. So between today and however long of a period of time we have, the body of Christ serves a purpose, and it's literally to continue to do what we were called to do, which is to reach the lost and to help bring them into the true knowledge and saving grace of Jesus Christ only. So keep that in mind. So get your prayer game up, people. Anyway, be blessed, be safe. Peace.